Welcome, everyone. I would like to greet you all. My name is Gabor Karsai, Managing Director of Mind and Life Europe, and I would like to greet all participants who are watching us online as well, as we are doing live streaming from here, Dharamsala, the Dalai Lama Library and Archive. I would like to welcome Jampa Lundup, Director of the Dalai Lama Library and Archive, and Secretary of the Dalai Lama Trust, or host, to say some welcoming words. Please.
Tashi Dili, and good morning. It is with deep respect and heartfelt joy that I welcome you all to the 39 Mind and Life Dialogue, Minds, Artificial Intelligence, and Ethics, held at DLLA. My name is Jambel Lundup. I'm the director of the Dalai Lama Library and Archive, and also Secretary of the Dalai Lama Trust. First of all, I would like to express how deeply meaningful it is for all of us to gather here for this event. This dialogue brings together brilliant minds from diverse disciplines, Buddhist scholars, scientists, and thinkers, united by a shared commitment to explore the nature of mind, the promise and the challenges of artificial intelligence, and the ethical responsibilities that come with it. The gathering here is a continuation of His Holiness 14 Dalai Lama's lifelong vision, a vision rooted in curiosity, compassion, and a profound belief in the harmony between science and spirituality. Through decades of a dialogue with some of the world's most distinguished scientists, His Holiness has sought to serve humanity by bridging the inner science of the mind with the outer science of the material world. From his earliest years, His Holiness displayed a deep curiosity about how things work, a curiosity that led him to take apart mechanical toys and to study the instruments of 13th Dalai Lama. This inquisitiveness, grounded in both wonder and reason, later evolved into a lifelong pursuit of understanding through science and dialogue. After going into the exile in 1959, His Holiness transformed that personal curiosity into compassionate mission, encouraging Tibetan schools to include modern science while preserving the richness of Tibetan culture and Buddhist philosophy. His visits to Europe further deepened his determination to bring bridges between the wisdom tradition of the East and discoveries of the West. This vision took a historic step forward in 1987, when His Holiness hosted the first Mind and Life dialogue here in Dharamsala. That gathering, a week-long exchange between Buddhist scholars and scientists, laid the foundation of what is now a global platform, the Mind and Life Institute. Over nearly 4 decades, this institute has brought together leading experts in neuroscience, physics, cosmology, psychology, and contemplative wisdom, helping humanity better understand the connection between the brain, mind, and ethics. His Holiness has always emphasized that monks and nuns who complete their Buddhist studies should also study modern science. This conviction has inspired several major educational initiatives, such as the Science for Monks and Nuns program, the Science Meets Dharma project in Switzerland, and the Embodied Tibet Initiative, Science Initiative. These programs have nurtured a new generation of scholars who bridge the world of Buddhist philosophy and scientific inquiry. What we proudly call today Tibetan scientists. It is also my honor to inform you that as part of His Holiness's vision being fulfilled, we have 3 Geshe-las and 1 Geshe-ma here participating as a panelist, sitting together with the Western scientists and thinkers. I'm also delighted to share that we have a recently established an organization called Tenzin Gyatso Science Leaders Association. This association comprises scholars who have studied Buddhist science for decades and Western science at Emory University for 2 years. They have now returned to their monasteries and nunneries to teach modern science to the monks and nuns. This marks a significant milestone, as Western science is now formally included in the curriculum of most monasteries and nunneries institutions. Throughout his life, His Holiness has consistently reminded us that science and spirituality are not opposing forces, but complementary paths towards the same goal. The well-being of all sentient beings, as His Holiness beautifully wrote in the universe in a single order, I quote, the enhancement of fundamental human value is indispensable to our basic quest for happiness. Therefore, from the perspective of human well-being, science and spirituality are not unrelated. We need both, since the elevation of suffering must take place both at physical and psychological levels, unquote. His Holiness's engagement with science is therefore not merely an intellectual pursuit, but a compassionate mission, a journey to unite the outer knowledge of the material world with the inner wisdom of the human spirit. By doing so, he offers humanity a holistic approach to peace, health, and happiness in the 21st century. In conjunction with His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama's 90th birth anniversary, celebrated as the Year of Compassion, let us also celebrate this day by generating compassion for the betterment of humanity at large. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Impella. Thank you. I would like to invite Thupten Jinpa Langri, Chair of Mind and Life Institute.
Venerable Sangha members, distinguished faculty, and my colleagues in the Mind and Life Institute and Mind and Life Europe, and friends. It's a real joy to be with you today, to take part in this Mind and Life dialogue, which is happening here in Dharamsala. And just as Jambala reminded us that, since this dialogue is taking place this year, in year 2025, which happened to coincide with His Holiness's 90th year, as you will see in the logo here, 90, we are also celebrating Year of Compassion to honor His Holiness's 90th year. So we see this dialogue as a kind of an offering to him as well. In the Tibetan tradition, there is this idea that of all the offerings that you can make to your guru, your teacher, the best one is the offering of practice. So in a sense, by continuing his mission of engaging in this kind of dialogue, we are kind of making that offering of practice. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Jambala also, sort of gave us a glimpse into His Holiness's lifelong interest in science. I'm not going to repeat that. He also mentioned that the first Mind and Life dialogue took place in 1987. I have had the privilege to serve him as his principal interpreter for now almost 40 years. Actually, I began in 1985, October. Today is 2025, October. So, and that The first Mind and Life in 1987, it was a very memorable one. It was hosted and organized by a brilliant Chilean scientist, Francisco Varela, and assisted by a businessman, American businessman, Adam Engel. And then the two of them really kind of proposed to His Holiness to offer him a platform through which he could engage and pursue his interest in science without him having to go to different places. That was initially the idea behind Mind and Life dialogues. And in those days, the Mind and Life dialogues used to last 5 full days, Monday to Friday, 2 sessions in the morning, 2 sessions in the afternoon. And of course, at that time, His Holiness was still the leader of the Tibetan movement struggle. And a lot of Tibetans were intrigued that why is His Holiness spending so much time sitting down for hours for an entire week with scientists. Of course, we now know why he did that. So right from the beginning, it became very clear to all of us, and particularly to His Holiness, that this dialogue as a platform can actually move beyond offering him an opportunity to engage with scientists and key scientific ideas. Rather, it can be a platform to have two investigative traditions come into contact with each other, namely Buddhism and science. And so that became quite obvious. And since then, Mind and Life dialogues have pursued. And one of the things that His Holiness often says that he has two main objectives when he engages in dialogue with science, particularly through the auspices of Mind and Life. One is to help kind of expand the horizons of scientific inquiry itself, so that it moves beyond a typical material paradigm in physics. And of course, even biology is kind of material paradigm. So he wants to bring the kind of the mind side of the story, the lived experience. And of course, science itself has evolved with the discovery and invention of sophisticated brain imaging technology, which allows, and with a conceptual kind of innovation of the idea of neuroplasticity and all of these came together. But I think Mind and Life dialogue also played a hugely important role in opening up that space to move beyond a reductionist understanding of human experience and consciousness. This is one key area. Then the other motivation that he talks about is to explore ways in which to see how science can actually serve humanity. And this, I think, is the compassionate motivation that he's talking about. And, I've always, been very impressed by the magic of Mind and Life, which I see. Now, of course, I may be a little biased because I'm one of the members of this movement. But one of the things that I have always been fascinated is this kind of, underlying belief that insights could emerge through dialogue in a collective, emergent manner. And this, I think, is looking back, it was a truly insightful discovery, because often in the West, when we go to academy, at the conferences, it's a monologue. Someone presents a long paper, there's a little bit of Q&A, and that's kind of it, and you move on. But Mind and Life imagines a kind of insights emerging through this collective dialogue where we create the space to allow people to think collectively, think aloud together. And that, I think, has been brilliant. And also the nature of the dialogue is such that we bring multidisciplinary perspective. So I'm so happy that, the artificial intelligence and minds and ethics have been chosen for this topic, because how humans coexist and live with artificial intelligence is going to be a defining question of our time. I have no doubt about that. And for that, I think we need to dig into the deepest resources, the most diverse resources there are in the world, in human knowledge, so that we don't allow the terms of the discussion and the debate to be taken over by some loud noises and voices. So because humanity's future is at stake. So I'm so happy that Mind and Life has taken this topic on, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the magic unfolds. And I'm personally also really looking forward to learning myself, because, I'm sort of a typical reader interested in AI, but don't have the privileged access to the research. And then you keep hearing about super intelligence and general intelligence, AGI and all of this, and you don't quite know what is real, what is hype. So I'm really looking forward to this important dialogue, which will really shed light so that we can bring the critical perspective to these important questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jimpala. Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Amy Cohen-Warela, Chair of the Board of Mind and Life Europe.
Dear friends, I'm very happy to be here with you. Thank you, Jinpa, for giving us that introduction. I would like to touch a little bit on the historical roots of the Mind and Life Institute as well, but maybe from a more personal perspective, and also a little bit about Francisco's work in the embodied mind, hoping that it will lead us in a way that's interesting for the beginning of our first session. So the Mind and Life dialogues were born from a friendship, as Jimpala said, that grew in the 1980s between His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, and a Chilean neurobiologist, Francisco Varela. Varela was not only a neuroscientist, but he was also a highly practiced Buddhist practitioner. And in their dialogues, it was really amusing, and this is something I remember, and I'm sure Jimpala remembers it as well, because Francisco would do what His Holiness would call switching hats. He would take the science viewpoint and put on the scientist's cap, and then he would take on the practitioner's viewpoint and put on the practitioner's cap. And the Dalai Lama, from the Buddhist science perspective, could do the same in a kind of a different way. And so observing the dialogue between His Holiness, the dialogue between His Holiness and Francisco was like witnessing a very sophisticated, elaborate, and actually also very loving dance between Buddhist science and Buddhist science and Western science that gave rise to a certain number of impasses, some of which we all remember, and also to eye-opening insights. But Francisco's science was far from the classical Western understanding. As a cognitive scientist who was deeply knowledgeable in philosophy, Francisco's task was to make explicit the living roots of our understanding of cognition, consciousness, and intelligence. These he saw as emerging from our nature as fundamentally embodied and situated beings. He and his colleagues built a theory of intelligence based on observations of the phenomena of life, how a living body maintains its autonomy in the midst of change, and of how our engagement with the world, our interdependence with it, are preconditions for both life itself and for intelligence. He didn't conceive of the world as a repository of information existing outside of the living sentient being, preceding our experience, that we must absorb and process with our brains as if we were computer-like machines. He saw reality rather as a space in which living beings engage in an ongoing process of creation of meaning. One of his favorite metaphors for this engagement was that of a dance between sentient being and world. The rhythm and the steps of the dance, of this dance, composed what he called the inactive approach to life and cognition. The inactive approach, or embodied, situated knowing, is different from objective knowledge. How? It is relational. It emerges from connections linking brain, body, and environment. It is also dynamical, always in motion, and because of that dynamical nature, never frozen, never fully secured. Embodied intelligence is flexible, adaptable, and uncertain, and being never certain, fragile. Because of that fragility, embodied... Thank you. Is that better? Thank you. Can you hear me now still? Is it better? It's also dynamical, always in motion, and because of that dynamical nature, never frozen, never fully secured. Embodied intelligence is flexible, adaptable, and uncertain, and being never certain, fragile. Because of that fragility, embodied knowing is precarious, but that unsettled nature makes it both boundlessly creative and caring. The technologies that we will be reflecting on this week were at an embryonic stage during Francisco's lifetime, but the connection he makes between life and mind, which we call the strong continuity thesis between life and mind, already during his lifetime provoked debates in the early worlds of artificial life and intelligence. Today's new technologies that point us towards horizons of machine intelligence and even consciousness pose challenges to the embodied view of cognition and mind that place human experience at the core of human mind. We will be exploring these questions throughout the week, and I expect the space we open up through our exploration together will bring more nuance to this opposition, particularly since it is our minds ourselves that are generating these very technologies. I also expect that our careful examination of these apparently contradictory views will generate tools for thinking the ethics of the radically new experience technological change will bring to us. I suspect that these ethics may not be in the form of a new set of rules, but rather in a new kind of ethical know-how that we must imagine here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you. I would like to invite Suzanne Bond, President of Mind and Life Institute, to welcome you all.
Good morning to those in the room. Welcome, welcome to those who are online. I wish that you could see these faces. Maybe you can see these faces, some of these faces, because there's joy, there's excitement, there's anticipation, and it's electric. We had the opportunity to join one another for dinner last night, and it was joyful. It was beautiful. And we have so many different views. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all of these views play out, because there's so much open-heartedness, there's so much curiosity, and there's so much joy in the room, and there's so much wisdom. I'm really looking forward to this morning's panel, this afternoon as well. And I think my good friend Gabor will talk more about the faculty and how we got to this place. But it is an extraordinary faculty who have been assembled for this moment, for us to be together and to persevere into the future. I want to begin by expressing gratitude to Dharamsala for the library and archive. What an amazing building. What a beautiful space. Thank you so much for making this available to us. Thank you for your amazing hospitality. Thank you for the AV team who are going to be sorting us out, I think, for the next few days, and with whom we've been in regular contact for many months now. So huge appreciation for the team who are supporting us here to make this possible. Thank you also to the Office of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama Trust, Norberlinka Institute, who's providing lunches for those of us who are here. I want to also thank our sponsors, the Adam J. Weissman Foundation, the Hershey Family Foundation, and the Dalai Lama Trust. Special thanks to Mind and Life Europe. So since I started with Mind and Life about 1.5 years ago, pretty much since then, Rob Roser and Gabor and Amy and I have been meeting every 2 weeks to get to know one another and to plan this event. And it's been a tremendous journey, and I'm very much in your debt, Mind and Life Europe, particularly you, Amy, and you, Gabor. Thank you so much for bringing this to pass. Every time I think about Mind, so I talk with a lot of philanthropists about Mind and Life, And it comes to me to those three founders. And I'm so glad that we've spoken at length this morning about Francisco Varela and also about His Holiness. I also want to invoke the energy of Adam Engel. It's entrepreneurs who also help make real and active in this world our ideas. And that energy is a very useful energy, particularly with this topic in this moment. In the room, we have coders, we have artists, we have activists, we have academics, we have entrepreneurs, policymakers, peacemakers, philanthropists, all united by our shared humanity, all united by our care for one another, our connection to all beings, and our connection to the earth. And all of that matters this week. So as we move from wisdom and insight throughout this week, hopefully we are able to galvanize our thinking into action in whatever way that might be. That might be art, that might be, I don't know. But I'm very excited to see what emerges from this amazing gathering. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're online, welcome, welcome, welcome. This is beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne, for your welcoming words. Now it's my honor to say a few words on behalf of Mind and Life Europe as well. I would like to welcome you all, both here in the room and online. I would like to start with some gratitude also, expressing gratitude to the planning committee first. The planning committee working on this event for the last year, including Molly Crockett, and if you can hear your name, please stand up. I would like to greet you, and I would like the audience to welcome you as well. Molly Crockett, Kate Nave, Marika van Vugt, please, Luke Steels, Geshe Sangpo, and Jimpala, of course. And Marc-Henri Desroches, who is sitting on the stage. But also like to welcome the faculty, and I'm going to just name you, and please stand up while I'm saying your name. Emily Ambander, Annie Cho Yang, Molly Crockett, Robert Cummings. Please stand up and stay standing. Marc-Henri Desroches, Yasun Gabriel, Sean Gallagher, Peter Hershok, Mervyn Hickok, Thupten Jinpa, His Eminence Kangse Rinpoche, Sasha Lucioni, Chiara Mascarello, Kate Nave, Anat Perry, Geshe Sangpola, Murray Shanahan, Luke Steels, Geshe Tapkela, and Marika van Vugt. We have a huge faculty here, 20 people, sharing their knowledge and experience with you all. Thank you for taking the time and sharing your wisdom during this event. I would also like to thank the Italian Buddhist Union Research Center for supporting the content development of this program that we at MLE played a huge part in. Thank you, Chiara, Francesco, and Emma for supporting us, sponsoring our work at Mind and Life Europe. I would like to introduce the program briefly. It's going to be 5 sessions diving deep into philosophy of mind, or minds, plural, how in living minds and how artificial minds function, and what is the difference or what is the commonality between the two. Then we will discuss the entanglement or disentanglement between these two forms of minds, whether we have become entangled forever or there is a chance for developing it in ways that would become beneficial and fruitful for humanity. Then the 3rd session will talk about future narratives, how we envision the future of AI, whether our narratives shape what is going to be our future. Of course, our narratives shape them, but what narratives we endorse, what narratives we foster. That's going to be a very important question to explore. And then one of the key questions of our dialogue, how we can introduce ethics into artificial systems, how we can develop artificial systems that are based on ethical values and compassion. That's going to be a very key session. towards the end of the program. And then in the end, we would like to see how we can educate ourselves and the rest of the world to include these principles, these values, ethics and compassion in the education system, in the education about AI and with AI. That's going to be a very complex question to explore as well. And then there will be a sixth session where we will summarize everything. There will also be chance for you all to ask questions. Throughout the whole program, in each session, there will be half an hour for you all to ask questions. I'm going to moderate the Q&A sessions. I would like to make sure that there are diversities or diversity of voices, that not always the same people speak. So I will try to make sure that monastics, Westerners, women, men, younger generations, older generations have a voice in the room. So please forgive me if I'm going to be a little bit sometimes not sharp, but maybe a bit more direct. Who is going to speak in the room? And then we have a box here in the stage, on the stage, where you can put your questions. If you are not willing to share the questions live during the program, you can still write your question, just the essence of your question, and put it in the box. We are going to collect them and use those questions in the end of the program in the sixth session to discuss them thoroughly, if we hadn't been able to discuss them. And then we are going to have some note takers in the room who are going to take notes and who are going to provide us with some summaries for the end of the program that we may be able to share very briefly in a very succinct form on Friday morning with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when we all are going to meet him. Marika van Vogt, Chiara Mascarello, and Chris Camel, thank you so much for your support and help with this very important process that humans are going to take notes of this event. And I didn't want to make a reference here to our subject. And then we have, of course, Tibetan translators behind the scenes who are going to translate this event into Tibetan, not only for those who are in the room and would not be able to understand English, but also for the rest of the world who are going to watch online and listen to our event in Tibetan. As you know, we are live streaming this event. All panels are live streamed, so please know about that. This is a very, very important moment for us at Mind and Life to be able to share this wisdom and knowledge that the presenters are going to share with us with the rest of the world, because we feel and we think that this is a crucial moment in the history of humankind where our position, where our ideas, where our questions are going to be formative and important to take this development of AI into the next stage, and probably into a stage where humanity's values and principles can be, I would say, developed in the best capacity we have, not in the worst capacity we have. So I would like to thank you all, and just finally finish by saying that artificial intelligence will be introduced in this meeting in multiple ways, and it will be understood in multiple ways. The speakers may not speak about AI in the same particular way. They may have different understanding, they may have different definitions, and when they will talk about AI, they will try to explain what they mean by AI, but I just want to make sure that we all understand AI is not ChatGPT. AI is bigger and wider and more diverse than that. So when we will talk about it, it's not only ChatGPT that we talk about. And I wanted to share this view because the planning committee and the faculty found it important that we say it in the very beginning of this meeting.